Okay, sorry, I'll just redo that. We are going to have our next story, and it is from Ben Ritchie. Go, Ben.
Thanks, Paul. The four of us should have been leaving that Saturday morning on our first family holiday abroad, camping with Eurocamp. It was 1992, and we had decided to take the kids to Disneyland Paris, which had opened earlier that year. However, about a week before our departure date, my wife had received a date for an interview on the Monday when we should have been in France. After much soul searching and consultations with the travel agent, we decided that I should go ahead as planned, and that my wife would attend the interview, then fly to Paris with the kids, where I would meet them on Monday afternoon. So early that Saturday morning, after little or no sleep, I kissed my wife au revoir and set off in our trusty Renault 9, which we had bought a few months before. Just how trusty you'll find out later on. The car was loaded with enough supplies to set up a mini campsite of our own. There was everything from tea bags to laxatives stashed away. I should point out that I wasn't a confident driver. Indeed, I would break into a sweat coming up to the carried off roundabout, thinking of the dual carriageway ahead. I, for one, wouldn't be needing any laxatives. 20 minutes into the journey, on the far side of Castlewellan, I realised that I'd forgotten the cool boxes with the vacuum packed meat. With a U-turn worthy of any fast and furious car chase, I returned and picked up the boxes, reassuring my wife again that all would be well. Sure, what could go wrong? The journey to Cork was uneventful, as was the sailing to Roscoff. After disembarking, there were ample signs showing the route to Paris, which I would have to go around in order to reach the campsite. Maybe this journey wasn't going to be as bad as I feared. This complacency was shattered when I arrived at the outskirts of Paris. I went through some tolls and was met by a battalion of signs for Paris, different parts of Paris. Paris Nord, Paris Sud, Paris Est, Paris Ouest. How many Parises were there? My trusty guidebook said I had to take the sign for Paris East. Unfortunately for me, the road signs were in French, while the French words for East and West are so similar to each other, I didn't know one from the other. Merd, I thought. Which way? This was all happening on the move, and I was running out of time and motorway in which to make a decision. Feel the force, Ben, said a cool, calm voice in my head. Let the force guide you. I did, and I turned right. Fortunately for me, the force turned out to be right too. Now I was about to face what I had dreaded for months. The Periphérique, the Parisian ring road, a place that made grown men cry, where faith is lost, nerves shattered, and souls destroyed. With a courage born from desperation, I yelled to myself, "No fear, allons-y!" and hurtled into what was really a Formula One Grand Prix held on a daily basis. Soon I was in the middle of a maelstrom of speeding vehicles where brake lights were viewed as a sign of weakness. It was like a sardine being in the middle of swarming hungry sharks. If I didn't draw attention to myself, I just might survive. I knew that I had to take the 9th slip road off the Periphérique. So getting into the spirit of things, I started to count. 1, 2, 3. I passed Gates turn off and realised that I needed to be in the right-hand lane to exit. There was space somewhere on the right, but the car behind me was only a few feet away from my back bumper. Gritting my teeth, perspiring like a squeezed sponge, and with an image of Dick Dastardly in my mind, I cut into that space to the accompaniment of assorted car horns objecting to my manoeuvre. Looking in the rear view mirror, I saw a driver making obscene signs and shouting who knows what at me. Still high in adrenaline, I simply shrugged my shoulders and waved back. Then I was there, the 9th exit from hell. I soared up that slipway, like a drowning man breaking to the surface and gulping that first breath of life-saving air. Like a phoenix rising from the ashes. I had survived. Nothing could stop me now. I laughed at the memory of the Cardiff roundabout. I still had a couple of hours driving, but I was a veteran now, so I took it all in my stride. Apart from the time I had to turn left, and I wondered why the car coming out of the road I was entering was on the wrong side of the road. As the other driver's surprised expression turned to one of utmost fear, I realized it was I who was on the wrong side of the road. An expertly executed swerve to the hedge avoided a collision, and a timely piece of acceleration meant that I left the scene as quickly as possible. Shortly afterwards, I reached the campsite, signed in, got to the tent, and unloaded our gear. I found a public phone box and rang home. Hi, yeah, I'm fine. No problems. It was all well signposted. It's just like driving at home. Yeah, going to the cafe when we finish to get something. I'll not starve. Okay, I'll see you tomorrow. Tell the kids I was asking for them. Good luck tomorrow. Love you too. And so I walked to my tent with my Fanta lemon and 2 dried out croissants, which I had bought in the cafe, which was just closing as I arrived. The next morning was spent making the tent look presentable for the arrival of my family. I had passed the sign for the airport on my way from Paris the day before, so I knew where I was going, and I set off for it in high spirits sometime in the middle of the afternoon. Now, someone once told me that all our judgments and expectations are based on the experiences that we have already had. So imagine my surprise when I turned to the Charles de Gaulle Airport expecting something like Belfast City Airport or the International Airport, only to be met with a scene that looked like something from another planet. Multiple towers and high-rise buildings as far as the eye could see, all linked by a network of roads. And yes, all the signs were in French. Why is that? I was totally gobsmacked, completely lost. Marion and the kids would be arriving soon and expecting to meet me. What if I went the wrong way? How would we ever find each other? The mood of the whole holiday rested on my shoulders. I pulled into a lay-by, surveyed the baffling scene before me, and said one of the most sincerest prayers I have ever said. Lord, show me the right way. Then patting the dashboard, I said to the car as much to myself, it's up to us now. Let's go. I don't know how, but I ended up in a multi-story car park, took a lift, and ended up in the arrivals lounge. I searched the screens for any sign of a flight from Belfast, and within minutes, to my great relief, Marion appeared, Kathy in one hand, Damien in the other. Relief, happiness, exhaustion. I felt all of these as we hugged and kissed among strangers. The rest of the holiday went mostly to plan, and it's one of the best holidays we ever had. And what of my trusty Renault 9? Well, it had carried us across France and home again without any trouble. Shortly after we returned home, I got a flat tire. And when I went to change the wheel, I discovered that the spare wheel didn't fit the car. Images of what would have happened if we had had a puncture in France flashed through my mind. But then I smiled. There had been no puncture in France. Mon ami, my trusty Renault 9, had seen to that. And, as we say in France, c'est la vie. And here we have a picture of the Kathy and Damien, on the holiday camp in the tree. And this one is, you just see Marion and Damien in a ride in Disneyland, the show I got there.
Oh, Ben, thanks so much. You are a braver man than I have to say. I drove very briefly in France once, and it was on a country road, and I think that's about as much as I would dare. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Where are you,
Thank
Ben?
you. Just outside Patrick.
All right. And is the family with you, or are they scattered all around?
Oh, it's just the two of us at home now. The kids are up and away.
All right. Well, listen, thank you so much. Delighted you could join us. Um,
Thank you.
this a shout out really to everybody who told the story tonight. We've been having, as I'm sure you are aware, a few technical difficulties. It's not our fault. It's obviously the 5G hasn't been put in properly. So we obviously don't have a great reception from some. So if you told the story, could you please do me a favor and re-record your story, just the audio, and send it to me via email? It'd be really appreciated, because I'd love to get some of those stories onto the podcast. And we have kept the podcast going. We've raided some archives, and we took stories from our previous Zoom evening. And I want to keep it going. And people have been sending stories actually from all over the world. So we have a few in, but I'd like to get some of tonight's stories up onto the podcast ASAP. Doesn't have to be a fancy recording. All you need to do is just get it recorded in full and send it to me an email or Dropbox or WeTransfer, please. Thank you very much.